everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit. And today we're going to give you some draft grades from the NFC North and the NFC East. And
most Super Bowl championships.
I'm not sure they're going to be called that after this year. So I'm going to ride it until then because I got some
Only
things
division.
I feel about the NFC East that people might be shocked about, Maddie.
Yeah, we're the only division to have a Super Bowl champion where every team has a Super Bowl, and we have the most Super Bowls in every division, out of all the divisions. But yeah, NFC least.
I mean, yeah, that's Cowboys fans and the East fans are a lot really good, like Packers fans of living in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a past, so I call you guys out for it. I don't have a past.
Yeah, hang on. Didn't the Eagles win one quite recently? And the Giants have won 2 recently, and then it's worse for Cowboys and Commanders.
Do you call the Giants ones recent? I guess that's relative to the person that you're talking to, right? You still got more rings than me, buddy. You still got more rings than me.
Yeah.
Even though there was a playoff game back in the 70s where you guys went to the Super Bowl because of a really bad push-off, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah. Well, it's just the problem with the NFC least thing is it was fine to do that 2 years ago when everybody was actually garbage. But we had 2 teams in the playoffs last year, and the Cowboys should have beat the 49ers on paper. It's just a shame.
Before we get into
our
the
coaching
East,
staff is still terrible.
You guys went 6-6 against outside of division opponents. So that's where I think it comes from. But yeah. We'll start with my Vikings who missed the playoffs, who pissed me off. Now, when it comes to draft grades, and this is the only one I'm doing it on, and I'll explain, I'm giving them an incomplete. And the reason I'm giving them an incomplete is because if we went on just draft, they're A-, B+ to me on the guys they drafted. But you gave up a top 5 fucking wide receiver to the Packers in a trade. And your boy Chris Sims had him higher than me in the top 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, if Watson didn't have all those drops, he's probably a top 2 receiver. I don't even have a problem with the Lions trade because they're still the fucking Lions and they're going to miss a year. And why do you help the fucking Packers get better? It just drives me insane. That is my argument for the incomplete. If Watson turns out, the grade's lower. If not, then it's higher to me.
Yeah. It's the fact that both of your trade backs kind of were in division. It's pretty, like, as you say, like, all Lions are the Lions, whatever. But they're both in division. Like, you do one or the other. Don't help out both teams to get.
Never the Packers.
I think the needle shifts on the Lions a lot more from getting Williams than it does from the Packers getting Watson. I don't rate Watson. Anybody who has a terrible drop problem. CeeDee Lamb had a drop problem with the NFL a little bit last year, but Watson had it in college, and that worries me straight away.
I'm completely different though, Maddie. Quick when you say that. Watson scares me more because 1, he's not going to miss a year, and 2, he doesn't have fucking Jared Goff throwing him the ball.
Yeah, true. But Williams won't miss a year. Because it's come on. What is it? An ACL that he's got. It's come on since then. He'll play this season. But the Lions aren't aiming for this year. The Lions are aiming for next year when they can pick up a decent quarterback in the draft anyway. But yeah, you don't help out the Packers because the Packers are your competition for this division. That's the thing. Your chance to get to the playoffs your chance to win the division. Is this year because the Bears are weak. The Lions have Jared Goff a quarterback without any help. Jared Goff's totally fine. He just doesn't have the right amount of help.
You'll agree with this, though.
Yeah.
Does Jared Goff has never got his receivers paid? Aaron Rodgers has got no-name receivers paid. Do you know what I'm saying? So, that's what scares me. Goff is serviceable. Don't get me wrong. But you know what I think of Aaron Rodgers. So, to me, he's not Aaron Rodgers. But since I keep stepping on you, what did you grade him?
I gave him a B, and I think the reason that I gave for their entire offseason, because I like the hires of Kevin O'Connell, I like the hires of Adolfo Mensah, Kwesi is what people are just going to call him from now, aren't they? I like the hires. My problem with the hires is it's shown no shift in the Vikings mentality in terms of like they've just traded back and trading back, and it makes me feel uneasy in terms of they just feel comfortable being good rather than taking that exceptional player. But just to counteract that, I'm not sure which exceptional player they would have taken in the draft. So I'm not like slating them too much for it. It just makes me feel like it's a continuation rather than a complete change.
I was with you. I was. And then, I'm a nerd for documentaries, right? Especially sports documentaries or anything behind the scenes. And almost every documentary I've listened to or behind the scenes from the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Vikings, even the Packers have all said the sweet spot in this draft for talent was between 100%. Somewhere, a lot of them say 30, some say 28. Let's not argue that, right? So somewhere to there to 70, they said was the sweet spot. So them trading back after I hear a bunch of teams see that, and your GM owner throwing their draft board up on national TV was fucking crazy. But it also proved that a lot of teams did not value the guys that a lot of us watching the TV valued. So that made me feel a little bit better. But I was with you. Trading back. I was out of my fucking mind.
Yeah. It feels like a continuation rather than a change, which the Vikings have been a really solid team. They're like the Cowboys. The Cowboys have never been absolutely dreadful, but they've never actually taken that next step fully when they possibly should have. And it looks like a bit of a continuation. But that being said, O'Connell's a totally different kind of coach to Zimmer. So maybe when the season actually kicks off, those moves will come to fruition.
The players are nicely shitting on Zimmer. Like, I don't think they have a problem with Zimmer because they're all like, oh, I love Coach Zimmer. But they're all like, you can feel the shift in energy in this building. The coach is different. They're friendly. And then Kendricks came out and said coaching by fear is not a great way to coach, which says something about Mike Zimmer. I'm excited about where they're going. Like you said, the new offense, I think a lot of the pieces fit really well if you look at the Rams offense. And that defense coming to a 3-4. I think this is where I am so excited. Now, it's not just the draft. They brought in Horrible Harry from the Bills. They brought in corner, you know what I mean, that can come in right from the Packers, hurt them, and Chandler take the slot. We drafted Booth, which I did not think would be there in the second round. Thought it was great.
Yeah, good value. Good value.
One thing I can guarantee the NFL, and people can look at me wrong, the Vikings will lead the league in causing legal concussions out of the secondary. That safety with Harrison Smith and the way Scene blows people up. But what I love is we went out and got guys who defend sideline to sideline, safety. We picked up Hicks as a free agent, and side to side as in linebackers. I love our moves in the draft. I think Ingram, I know he had that little high school off the field stuff. I know it got dropped. It was some sexual stuff. I'm not sure what happened. But if they're comfortable and his college was comfortable, I think this kid can come in and start at right guard. But we already brought in Davis from the Colts. So I think they might even try moving one of these guys to center to make it better for Bradbury. We got depth at that. Azizi Autonomo out of Minnesota. That kid, he's got, I don't want to compare him to Danielle Hunter, except he is the same height, weight, speed, body type of Danielle Hunter coming out of college. I like that they got Naylor from Michigan State as another wide receiver. I actually think he might bump one of these guys like a BC Johnson out of there. Nick Muse at tight end in the 7th round, even if he makes the practice squad, I think that he could be a guy moving forward. I'm really excited about what they're doing, but you know me during the draft, the first day of the draft and the beginning of the second day, I was pretty fucking heated with what they were doing.
It's how they were getting absolutely railroaded for taking Sign, and it was just like, no. The only reason that you're getting railroaded for taking Sign is he would have been the top safety in loads of drafts if it wasn't for Kyle Hamilton coming through.
And some people had him above. I didn't. No way. Some people did. Yeah. Like Chris Sims thought he was better than Hamilton.
Yeah, Chris Sims just doesn't rate. Like, if you're the top runner, then Chris Sims will. I never take Chris. I always swap around Chris Sims's 1 and 2 because I think he likes his second guy. He always wants to be better than everybody else's first. All the rest of it, I'm like, yeah. I love hearing your input.
I was very shocked that the lowest grade I seen the Vikings get out of anybody off of these sites with the trade was a B-, and they got a lot of A's. But because of trading to the Packers, I thought they were going to get dragged through the grading process. But
yeah, people, when they do grades and stuff like that for the grading process, these draft analysts, they don't really look who you trade to too often. It's how many picks did you pick up. They love it when you trade back. They love trading back. They hate trading up, these draft analysts. Yeah, for the whole offseason, I've given them a B because I like the hires. I don't think they've taken anybody particularly special in terms of players, but at the same time, there's nobody in this draft that is 100% going to be absolutely special. There's no Micah Parsons on the defensive end. There's no Trevor Lawrence. There's no like that. Those kind of guys.
Was their biggest offseason moves, Zadarius Smith getting us a second pass rusher across from. So you're right. Our biggest moves were actually a free agency moves, probably. But I really like how we fixed the offensive line and the cornerback room because even in the 4th round, I think Evans is going to make this team. I think Evans is going to be a starter at some point at corner because of his size. And so I think they did good. I could sit and pick the Vikings up and down all day long, so I won't do that. But who you want to move on to next, Maddie?
Packers.
All right. So
F.
You gave him an F, really?
F.
Ride out. Yeah. I like you. Ride out.
Where have they got better? Give me a position group where they're better. Is that
what you're doing? Like, where are they better? Because they did lose guys this offseason that I think they're going to be worse no matter what they did.
Yeah, but that still means that they're terrible. Like they've got worse. Like, and it's not like, oh, you've got a little worse, but you've freed up cap room and all of that, because that's not the window they're in. That's not the window. Like, I don't mind it when teams absolutely obliterate everything if they know they're not. Like, I was advocating for the Vikings to obliterate everything like it's a year or two ago, to say just blow everything up and just go for it. I think I felt that way for a week, and then when actually the Vikings have got more to work with than I'm giving them credit for. They're just unfortunate to be in a division with the Packers, who are playing with Aaron Rodgers, to be honest.
And you just played bad defense last year, just awful, which is uncharacteristic. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Let's just start with the draft process for the Green Bay Packers, just to do something different rather than talking about Devontae Adams to start with. Let's go for the draft process. So they take Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, and Christian Watson. Okay, fine. Like,
I like
fine draft picks.
I like Wyatt and I like Watson. I was a little shocked with Walker, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So that's the problem. They probably could have got Quay Walker later on. The problem is they got lucky with their draft rather than they actually did something right. They wouldn't. What they should have done is taken Christian Watson first, and then taken Wyatt, and then taken Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round rather than Quay Walker. And then they wouldn't have had to trade up. Then they get a whole nother player. Then they don't have to trade to come up to get Christian Watson. And I'm not saying that Nakobe Dean's better than Quay Walker. I'm actually on the Quay Walker train on that kind of end, and because of Dean's injury issues. But then you get a whole nother player. You get a whole player to work with. Is Nakobe Dean that much better than? Is Quay Walker that much better than Nakobe Dean? Is he an entire lottery pick better? No. Like, definitely not. So you take Watson first, then you take Wyatt, then you take Nakobe Dean, or alternatively, Quay Walker is still there. Like, that could have easily happened for you to go for.
I'm nicer to the Packers than you, which is very odd. I gave them a C+ and only on the fact that I think they pick solid guys that fit needs that will probably make their team.
Yeah.
Now we're doing the whole offseason. I would rate them lower because you lost Chandler, you lost Z, you lost Devontae Adams. So if you're asking me, are they worse? Definitely. And we'll get to this down the road when we do our picks. But I'm not so sure this year that they win the North.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Last year, I was convinced they won the North. So
yeah, So let's look at their wide receiver room. Now, they had a terrible wide receiver room, even with the best wide receiver in the NFL, the best all-round wide receiver in the NFL, in it.
Or one of, argue. You will get argued. So let's,
Like obviously Cooper Kupp and like, but you know,
there's
like Devontae
there's 5
Adams
guys that could be the best receiver in the NFL right now.
Definitely. And but best all-round, like in terms of can beat down the field, can do all the, he's incredible. And they still had a terrible wide receiver room with him in it. Does the aggregate of Christian Watson and Sammy Watkins make up for not having Devontae Adams? Because remember, they lost who did they lose to the Chiefs down the field for it?
Or MVS.
MVS, yeah.
And Lazard's holding out, even though he can't negotiate with another team, he's holding out for more money.
Yeah. Exactly. So if you say Sammy Watkins is replacing MVS, right?
Fine. I forgot down the field threat. This is how bad their receiver core is, and how little I think of Sammy Watkins anymore is that I forgot he even signed with them.
Yeah, and the last time Sammy Watkins was good was 7 years ago. But let's say he's able to do that role. So you filled that role, but where's your Devontae Adams? Where is he? And that's totally fine. It's totally fine. You're going to find it really difficult to replace a Devontae Adams. But if you're a team that's actually going for the Super Bowl, then you should be looking to replace a Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? Use those. Another thing with their draft process could have been use those 2 picks to move up and take one of the top wide receivers. And obviously, if Christian Watson is their top wide receiver, which I don't think he is if they're picking him in the 2nd round instead of using one of those first picks to take him.
What did Dallas get for Amari Cooper? I forget.
A 5th.
Damn, Green Bay. All right,
they got a 5th. Yeah. Odell Beckham started there, and I know he's not going to play for loads of the year. Jarvis Landry went to Saints on free agency.
Will Fuller still out there, or did he sign?
Yeah, Will Fuller kind of. They got Sammy Watkins instead of Will Fuller. That's kind of the same.
Yeah, thing, but I'm saying there's some wide receivers that could make them better right now.
Exactly.
Trade for Brandon Cook type of thing. Yeah, I get it, but it's
Yeah, and then
Amari, if you were going to pay Devontae what you were offering him, and I am not saying Amari Cooper is Devontae Adams, but if you look at Cooper's contract, it's not as bad as it used to be because of what wide receivers are getting paid now. If you could have pulled that on, if you're the Packers, for even call him up and go, I'll give you a 4th and beat out, you would be better off than you're sitting now.
Yeah, it's just the Dallas Cowboys aren't the Minnesota Vikings, and we don't trade with our nearest rivals all the time.
Hey, if they gave you a better pick, you took it.
Yeah, definitely. If they gave, but even you can't tell me that Amari Cooper. If they gave us a 2nd for Amari Cooper, we would have been biting their hand off there. And with that 2nd, they took Christian Watson.
That's why I said.
But they traded up to get that 2nd. It's insane.
They could have probably got him for a 4th. So
it's incredible.
I'm high on Watson though, and that's another thing that chapped my ass because I'm high on him, and then he went to the Packers, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" You are a witness to the spot we traded out of. I wanted to draft Watson to replace Thielen in the future.
Yeah, and I'm high on Devontae Wyatt. I love that guy. I wanted him to be a Cowboy. I love that guy, but how much does he make your team a Super Bowl team compared to the fact that they lost Devontae Adams? And they just haven't. It's not that they've lost him and haven't replaced him, because you're always going to find that guy difficult to replace. It's they've lost him, and it looks like they haven't even tried to replace him, and that's why they get an F, because they've got worse. Like they've got quite a lot worse and not tried to make it better. It's not like the Cowboys have also got worse, but at least they've tried to make it better by the looks of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think they got worse in the same way the Packers got worse. This is going to sound stupid, but like the Packers got worse at 3 positions: that pass rusher, corner, and their best wide receiver, who we could argue is one of the best wide receivers in the game.
So they take a linebacker, a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, and a 2nd-round wide receiver, instead of just saying, like, take those 2 first-round picks and move up and go get. But if Christian Watson, then I understand. But then take Christian Watson in that spot, and then you don't have to trade up to get him later. The draft process, they got lucky to get who they got, if they're their top 3 players, they got lucky to get who they got, and it's a terrible process. And I don't believe that Watson's that good. Anyway, there's Sky Moore was also out there. They wouldn't have had to trade up to get Sky Moore, Alec Pierce. Was Pickens still out there at the time? I think George Pickens was still there at the time. It's not like they were bereft of wide receivers, and then not to really add to it later. It's just weird draft process to me.
Yeah, and like I said, they filled needs. The Packers seem to do a good job of coach them up, make them solid, but I don't see anybody who changed his life in Green Bay this year. And like we both said, I think with their losses, they're going to take a step back. I'm not convinced, like I have been in previous years, that they win the North. A lot has to do with the other teams in the North, but yeah, they've fallen off. Well, oddly, I think the Vikings and Lions have done nothing but get better over the offseason. Yeah. And
definitely
the Bears are too like TBD. I'm not, we'll see what's going on there. But before we move on to the next team in the North, Maddie, I got a quick word from Overtime Hustling.
Overtime Hustling.
What's good? It's your homie, Freezes Christ. Y'all know the deal. Make sure y'all head on over to overtimehustling.com where you can catch all the latest merch, all the newest mags, all the media, everything, you know what I mean? And you can also find me on Winging It with the homies Keith G, King Dale, and Payne Gusto. And you can catch me on Turf Tales with the homie SK, as well as Backblocks, you know what I mean? And if you got nothing to do on Sundays, even if you do got something to do, make sure you tap in the Overtime Reactions hosted by the homie Cuzzo. And I cannot forget the homie Jay over there at the Yankee and the Brit channel. So make sure y'all go over there and check them out. And hey, check me out, your boy Freezes, on that Real Talk with Jay. It was a hell of an interview, yo. Gotta do it again. I keep saying it because I mean it. We gotta do it again. I had a great motherfucking time. But anyway, you know who it is. Freezes H, OTH, Yankee and the Brit, Winging It, Turf Tales, Overtime Reactions, Chronicles Podcast. You know the drill, Cush's Corner. It's a motherfucking movement. So move with it or move out the motherfucking way. Simple and plain.
Overtime hustling, we hustling overtime.
Now, Maddie, I don't know about everybody else, but is that the first time you got to see that? Because you've been on vacation.
It's the first time I've got to see it live. I have watched it before. I've seen you sent me it. Don't you worry. But yeah, just as that was going on. Yeah, whilst a lot of other stuff was going on there, I just thought of an extra point to add on to the fact that they didn't go for Amari Cooper. Aaron Rodgers has a horrible time throwing to people who don't run good routes and people who he doesn't trust. And Amari Cooper runs possibly the best routes in the NFL, and he's on spot every single time. And instead, they've got rookie wide receivers and Randall Cobb. And it's, what are they? I'm interested to see what they're going to do.
I got to throw something out there for Packer fans quick, too. Calm down that your boy 12 is not at OTAs. Let these receivers learn the playbook before he gets there, or he's just going to get frustrated with him anyway. So once they know the playbook, then he can go, I know the playbook says go 8 yards and cut off. But when we see this coverage, cut it off at 7. He'll be able to tell them that in training camp. He will not be able to tell them that in OTAs because they're digesting too much. I don't think it's a bad thing. Let Jordan Love take some reps. Let these young wide receivers learn the playbook and then bring Rodgers in and let him tweak what they do. I think it's fine. I know a lot of people are upset, and I don't believe anybody in the history of the NFL has ever sat back and gone, if that dude would have showed up to OTAs, we'd have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's a thing called cognitive overload where you don't give people too much stuff to learn all at once. We've only got 5 slots in our working memory at any one time before you need to commit it to long-term memory. You'll start forgetting things. So you don't need Aaron Rodgers adding on to the top of that. And plus, man, the dude's however old he is, just let him fucking chill out. Like, he'll be fine when he comes back. And your wide receiver room's not good enough to make a difference anyway, so it doesn't matter.
All right, Maddie, do you want to move on to the Bears or the Lions?
Let's finish on positivity, so we'll move on with the negativity now and do the Bears.
Okay, that's it. So I'm going to tell you, I gave them a C, but I feel like I graded them high because I graded them on a curve of having no first-round pick. If you want to call their first round pick Justin Fields, then I'm calling it a D. But I think they did a pretty good job without having a first round pick again. I like Kyler Gordon. I think he's going to be a solid corner for them. I think he'll fit their system well. I like Brisker, the safety they picked up. I think he's a year or so out from being a starter maybe, but another guy that I really like. I think Robinson off the edge showed some good things at Miami of Ohio. Can he do it at a better level? And I really like Carter, the guard they got. So out of Southern, another small school. So I like dudes that they picked up where they picked them up, but they gave up so many first round picks for Fields and for Khalil Mack. And I think they've really hurt their team overall over the last 5 years just by making bad moves either before the draft or during the draft.
Do you not, has Justin Fields not shown you that he's capable of doing it at this level after last year?
I think he's fucking Mitch Trubisky. I don't know what to think yet, for one. And for two, I'm also a little worried for the Bears fans that you bring in a defensive head coach with fucking Justin Fields. Like, I don't feel like you did anything to make life easier on Justin Fields, which is what they should be doing.
So I've given them a D for that precise reason. I said, what did they do to help Justin Fields?
Okay.
What did they do to help him? They hired a defensive head coach when the whole entire league is going offensive, and it's like Chicago's gone, oh, well, we tried it once with Matt Nagy, so now let's go back to 1985 Bears football. It's like, no, you've got such a talented weapon. I love Justin Fields. I still don't, but okay. I love him even more after this year because I think he was the only shining light on the Bears team last year. Like I can't see, and I think he worked on his mechanics. His mechanics looked a bit better. He played better than Trevor Lawrence last year, and I know Trevor Lawrence is on the Jags, but Justin Fields is on the Bears. Also terrible. Wilson had a few problems last year. They didn't let Justin Fields run. Why aren't they designing plays to let Justin Fields run? But anyway, Nagy's not there, and there's a reason he's not there anymore. What have they done to help him?
Quick question, just so I understand. Are you saying that you liked how Fields played better last year, or do you like him over Trevor Lawrence and Wilson?
I'm saying that I liked how he played better last year. It's too early to make a judgment on all three of those people because they're on awful teams.
I was just asking because I wanted to clarify. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like if you put Justin Fields in with the Ravens and you put Wilson in Kansas City and you put where would Trevor Lawrence fit really well? Tampa or I don't know, somewhere like the Bills or somewhere like that, then they're all going to be incredible as well. Or and then that's a fair comparison. Yeah, just anything to do with that. That would be a more fair comparison than comparing them to each other right now. But Justin Fields, the best plays the Bears had last year was Justin Fields running. And he made some dynamite throws as well, but but they didn't draw up any plays. But that's another topic. They've done nothing to help him. So what they have done to help him is got Jones, the wide receiver. I don't know his full name. Tennessee, maybe. But they got Jones, wide receiver, and all the draft stuff says about him is he's a wide receiver 3 when they could have had Pickens, Pierce, Skywalker when they picked. And they're all potential wide receiver 1s or 2s. Yeah. And they could have had those 3 guys who were all potential wide receiver 1s. Allen Robinson's walked, so he's gone. Khalil Mack's gone, so therefore their defensive line is worse. And I don't, as I said, I don't mind teams. I understand the Bears didn't have any draft picks, but they're blowing up the team without recouping draft picks. Like they're blowing up the team and they're going into a rebuild without getting anything to rebuild with. So whose fault is that? And I understand last administration, it's unfair to put it on Eberflus, but then Eberflus has then gone into the draft and not helped the quarterback at all. Like, not done anything to help him at all. And with those wide receivers running around, are you telling me that Sammy Watkins, are you telling me that Sammy Watkins wouldn't have been an improvement and you couldn't have given them more than the Packers are giving him to get there. But then also people like, why haven't they talked with Jarvis Landry? Why haven't they talked? And Chicago's a great city. Like, they've got a nice market and they're doing nothing.
Guys, though, and that team, guys might have just said thanks, but no thanks at this point. Yeah. I like Ryan Poles as a hire of a GM. I don't know how he'll be, but I like his history. So I'm willing to like give him a couple years because he did take over a shit show. But I'm with you. I don't understand.
Definitely.
I don't understand.
I'm not throwing them under the bus, but it's just what they have done. They've got nothing to work with, and what they have done is terrible. On the subject of Gordon and Brisker, really nice secondary picks, really like it. But is Gordon better than Booth Jr.? Like, they could have even done that, but that depends on your evaluation. I would say Booth Jr. is better, but that depends on your evaluation. So they've gotten worse. They've got no picks to work with.
If you remember back to our grading, I had Booth as the 4th best in my top 5. So it just depends on where you had him rated, I guess.
Exactly. I had him 5. I was just like, what are we? Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the Bears are doing. I think they've just said Chicago is linebackers and big defensive play and all of that kind of stuff. And when you've got, even if you don't feel like Justin Fields is going to be the best, you may as well, like, what have they got to lose by just picking up some absolutely insane wide receiver weapon to see what happens? Just someone more exciting than Jones.
No, I don't disagree. I'm not sure where the Bears are going with any of this, but we'll move on to some happier times, I guess, in franchises. It looks like the Lions are kind of moving in the right direction. I gave them an A-. I get why they picked Aiden Hutchinson. I get it. But in this draft, I don't think he's going to change lives. I think he'll get you double-digit sacks? Yeah, I do. And I think he's going to be solid for 10 years. But in other drafts, I think you're more excited about the supposed best player in the draft falling to you at number 2, where I think Hutchinson is solid as hell. Do not get me wrong. I think he'll be great for them, but I don't think he changes the world there. And then the Williams pick, if you even play him this year, you're a fucking idiot because you're not going to the playoffs. Let that kid heal a whole year.
Definitely.
And so that's a throwaway pick that we can't make a decision on until next year or later. And then there are other picks. I mean, Kirby Joseph, safety out of Illinois. I think he's got a chance to be a starter.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure where I find I think they did really good for the players that were there. I think in other years they would have done better with their draft picks because of the talent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like the Lions got screwed by being this high in this year's draft.
Yeah, they would never have moved back. Hutchinson, at this point in this draft, if you can get a player that'll play for you for 10 years, that's the guy that you want. I think, because we have no idea with any of the other guys. Thibodeau, everybody's going mad and saying, and I'm pretty happy with the Thibodeau pick for the Giants as well. Not as a Cowboys fan, but just for the Giants. I'm like, oh yeah, Thibodeau, good pick. Walker, I don't understand why they've done that, but when you're Jacksonville and you're just looking for somebody good, but yeah, you don't know where these guys are going. Whereas Hutchinson, you can say, yep, that guy's going to play 10 years in the league and he's going to be totally fine. And I think the Lions did a good job of not fucking that up. And that's a good way of doing it. Take who's there. Well done. Well done to the Lions. I like the bold move for Williams. I like that. And it just embodies everything that I've liked about the Lions' moves in their rebuild. I know the joke is they've been rebuilding for 4 years, but really they've set out a 3-year plan for their rebuild, whereas other teams and other franchises say, oh, if you're not winning games by year 2, then you're getting fired. And it's like, how you meant to rebuild an entire organization in 2 years, but the 3 years, and that gives them the fact that I really like that they didn't panic and go pick a quarterback, and they said, right, we'll just get our quarterback next year because we've got picks to work with next year, and there's good quarterbacks that should be coming out next year, and if there's not, then we'll put a pick package together for a veteran quarterback. And I like that they got the weapon in Williams. I'm not sure I would have traded up during this draft, but I like the move. I like if he fires in his second year, has time sitting on almost red shirts this year, if he fires in his second year, then it's an awesome move up because that's exactly what they needed.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, though, I know you get 5 years, but with this guy, you just gave up a year of a cheap contract. But wide receivers aren't cheap anymore, so I did think about that. But you still have 4 years with the fifth-year option. But my thing is, I think they should have drafted a quarterback, not high, but I think this is a team that should be drafting a quarterback every fucking year, and I think that banking on a quarterback next year, I think is crazy, but I don't think that's what the Lions are doing. And I could, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is just me thinking what I think they should do. I feel like the Lions are one of the teams waiting for Baker Mayfield to get cut because we all know the Browns have to cut him and eat that 18.9. And then they can go to Baker because Baker's only making 18.9 because it's in his contract that there's offsetting. So if you pay him 4, then they only have to pay him 14.9, right? He's going to go in for a league minimum, $1 million and some dollars for some team. The Browns are going to pick up the 18 million other money. He's still going to get paid the same. So I think that might be something they're doing. And if that's the case, then I completely understand it. If it's not, I do not know why you didn't draft a Sam Howell or some guy like that at some point.
Malik Willis would have been.
Or anybody. But I'm just saying, even if you wanted to go later in the draft, you should have picked somebody and tried to see. Every year, spend a low draft pick, like at a lottery ticket, and see if you hit a Tom Brady.
Yeah, what I meant was in the top bit.
Right, no,
like they could have panicked at 31. They could have picked who we had them picking a quarterback at 31 on both of our. They could have picked Matt Corral, which I don't think would have been a bad move, but at the same time, the fact that they've all fallen to the third round, they could have probably picked one up in the third round, definitely. A Matt Corral, Malik Willis, even Sam Howell. Where did he end up going?
I can't remember.
He should have stayed in school. He should have stayed in school.
Unless they're waiting on Ryan Tannehill to lose his job to Willis, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but
I think if their plan is to take Baker Mayfield, then I'm not sure that the Williams trade is as good of a thing to do, because they could have got a weapon that they could have used this year if they'd taken Baker Mayfield.
My thing is, though, if you take Baker Mayfield on that 1-year deal, don't you almost try to negotiate 1 more year out of him in there too? I don't know. You know 100%. What I mean? Bring him in for 2
100. Yeah, 100%. But with this idea of a 3-year rebuild, it means they get rid of Jared Goff's contract by then, and those kind of things as well, so they can actually attack some people in free agency. And I think so. What have they got for Matthew Stafford? They've got Williams, and then they've got picks next year, don't they? So they've got picks to work with next year if somebody does come out as well. I really like the Lions off-season. I like their off-season as a whole. I like the way that they're building. Makes sense.
I do too. I just, waiting on a quarterback is always scary to me. So I'm like, throw a dart, even if in the 5th round. Just throw a dart and see if you hit somebody. You know what I mean?
Even like Spencer Rattler, look what happened to him. Everybody was waiting for him, and look what's happened.
I didn't know what he'd be in college, and I hate to shit on the kid because he's had it enough. But after watching QB1 or whatever that show he was on as a high school kid, I knew this kid was going to be problems in college because he already was a big head kid in high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like when you watch the QB, what is it, QB1 Behind the Lights or whatever it is, when you watch it the year that Justin Fields is on there, and was Trevor Lawrence also on it that year? Did they get them both on it that year? I know Justin Fields was on it, but Justin Fields was very grounded, even though everybody was like, yeah, this guy is absolutely insane. Whereas with Spencer Rattler, people were like, yeah, he's probably the best in his year. Not an amazing year for quarterbacks, though, but yeah, he was pretty. Maybe he'll get it together this year.
Before we go on to your NFC East, one more quick break from your boys over at Yankee and
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jay from Yankee and the Brit telling you to come over and check out our shows. The Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk, Well Beyond the Arc, the Markout Podcast, Flagrant and Foul, Real Talk with Jay, and MMA Underground Weekly at YouTube/The Yankee and the Brit. Deuces.
The movement's growing.
Yes, and if you guys are watching this, literally 2 hours after this airs, make sure you tune in live for MMA Underground. We got Big Smile, Matthew Crawford, and his opponent for Cagezilla this month, Josh Klein. So don't miss that. Natty, we're going to move on. It's your division. It's your world. Where you want to start?
We'll start with the Dallas Cowboys, eh? And I just want to start out with, what the hell was that first round draft pick? I've still not talked myself around to it at all. When you have a special prospect like Tyler Linderbaum fall right into your lap in a position of need, and a guy that's there, Barons, isn't it? He's not it. But you could have even still played him at guard. Then you take him. Fuck position value. Because he can play guard as well. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Instead, what you have taken is the most penalized offensive lineman in college and added him to the most penalized offensive line in the NFL. And it's just insane to me. And yeah, he's got amazing pancake blocks everywhere. And yeah, I'm sure he'll be great. We do really well at developing guards. And he can be great. And this would still be the wrong draft pick to do because Tyler Linderbaum is better. Like, he is going to be better. I just fully believe that. And like, he can be incredible. Our guard, he can be absolutely amazing. And it would still have been the wrong thing to do on the day. Yeah. The rest of the offseason, interesting. But that draft pick just blew my mind.
We both had them taking Linderbaum in our mock, and then he fell there too. So I thought it was a done deal. And yeah.
And then they didn't take, but it would have been fine if they didn't take Linderbaum, but because of positional value. But then they take a guard instead of Jermaine Johnson, a defensive line. So instead, what they've done is they've taken Jermaine Johnson at defensive line, and then instead of then get your guard in the top of the second, get your guard in the second round. It makes no sense.
Well, and then they take a guy in Tyler Smith who had off the field issues too in the first round. Makes me go,
Obviously.
It's not that I have a problem with guys with off the field issues getting a second chance. But if you even look at Delvin Cook, he got in trouble for stealing a fucking laptop in college and dropped to the second round because of it. So it's these kind of things that I'm like, yeah, kids do stupid shit. And I don't remember what Smith did for his off field stuff. But I did think it was the most Jerry Jones thing ever to pass up the guy we all think they're going to take and take a guy with off the field issues.
And then show everybody your draft board. It's just insane.
Can I tell you something, though, that'll make you happy?
Go on.
Jake Ferguson is going to be a fucking monster for you on third down.
Yeah, 100%. I also like Sam Williams as well. Like, he's an exciting him as a foil with Micah Parsons is going to be fun. I don't know why they've called him a linebacker, because if you're going to call him a linebacker, then why aren't you taking the Kobe Dean? Never mind. That's okay. But do
you know who Jake Ferguson's grandfather is?
Go on.
Barry Alvarez, the athletic director at Wisconsin and the coach that turned Wisconsin Badger football around.
Yeah. And he's going to be a good player. He's going to be an absolute monster on third down. And like, we're quite good at picking up those guys in the lower rounds. We're a really good drafting team, and I'm sure he's going to be great. But Tyler Linderbaum was the person to take at that spot.
Would you give the Cowboys
for their offseason overall? I've given them I still haven't decided. I've got. In the UK, we don't do B minuses, C plus, and stuff like that. So it's either a C or a B. And I feel weird giving it a B, but I also don't think it's quite as low as a C, because I like everything else that they did.
I got them at a B plus.
Yeah, okay, so I'm a lot higher than you. But yeah, I'm doing the off season as a whole, where I'm giving them that grade. Jalen Tolbert is a really nice pickup. I really, really rate Jalen Tolbert in the space that he's going to be, but they've done nothing to replace Amari Cooper apart from take Steele. And then the fact that Steele's going to be at right tackle and we're losing Lyle Collins. Like, what is this? Like, yep, it's a C. It's a C. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable.
See, and if I took in their off season, I think I would have made it lower than a C plus because of the loss of Gregory and Amari Cooper and things like that. But just going by the draft,
I think Cedric Wilson's quite a big miss during like in my opinion as well. And James Washington's a solid signing, but is he moving the needle? No, not really. It's weird that he's probably going to get the number 19 shirt, and he's not Amari Cooper. That's all. But yeah, I like what they've done to kind of like. I like Sam Williams. I like him a lot, and I think he'll be a good foil for Micah Parsons. Like, that's a lot of speed up front. A lot of speed up front. Yeah.
So where you want to go next in your NFC East? Want to go with the Redskins? I mean, Commanders, my bad.
Yeah, let's go Commanders. Let's go Commanders.
My bad. That just slipped out of 44 years being one thing.
Let's go Commanders.
I gave them the worst grade out of the whole NFC East. I gave them a C-. I don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. I got a lot of confusing picks. I thought, and people are going to say, Dotson, not a bad receiver. Mathis, not a bad D tackle. Robinson, pretty good running back. Look at the guys who were sitting there when they drafted. That's my problem.
Yeah, so basically, you can describe their entire draft in one word, which is reach.
That's where Sam Howell went, by the way.
Yeah. Cool. You can describe it in one word. So. You can describe it in one word, and it's reach, like 100%. And they've got an F from me, basically, and it's described in this. So they take Dodson at 16, and then in the second round they take Mathis. Well, what they could have done is they could have taken Jermaine Johnson at 16, and then they would have had either Alex Pierce or Sky Moore, or they could have even had Dotson, who could have still been there during the second round by the way things looked. And it just makes no sense. Like, that trade-off. What sounds better, Jermaine Johnson and Alex Pierce, or Dotson and Mathis?
Yeah. The former, not the latter, but yeah.
Exactly. It just makes no sense. And then if we're doing their offseason as a whole, then they've picked up Carson Wentz. Why?
Yeah, do you think he's that much? I mean, like, do you think, I mean, as in Commanders, do the Commanders think after the way that he played last year, the way he exited the Eagles, and he's known to be a little bit sensitive, that he's a better pickup for you than just riding the Taylor Heineke train until you find your replacement?
Yeah, or drafting a QB that isn't Sam Howell, like a bit higher, like keep Taylor Heineke in, then with Malik Willis or with
but even if you're not sold on those guys, do we think that Carson Wentz is really that better of an option with everything we've watched? Because yes, he plays dynamic, but it doesn't matter if at the most important times he does those what the hell are you thinking moments.
So Carson Wentz is a better player than Taylor Heineke, but when Carson Wentz fucks up, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
It's like the fuck-ups are spectacular.
At the worst time, too.
Yeah, they're absolutely insane. And it just makes no sense to me at all. And with the way that the Commanders play football, do you want that guy that can lose you the game? Like, Carson Wentz is one of the only quarterbacks who can legitimately lose you a game single-handedly. Like, he can win you a game single-handedly, but when you play Commanders football, where it's, oh yeah, defense, run the ball. This is the 1980s Washington football team, rah. No, you don't then put Carson Wentz into that, especially when you, like, they have Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is not a Carson Wentz kind of receiver. You know, when we were evaluating wide receivers, and I was like, Drake London, perfect wide receiver to go for Carson Wentz. Absolutely perfect wide receiver for them, because he will turn Carson Wentz's 50-50 ball. Terry McLaurin is an incredible wide receiver, but he's not doing that, and neither is Dotson. Dodson's not doing that either, and it makes no sense. The pickup makes no sense.
Hey, I rode Carson Wentz till the wheels fell off, and they fell the fuck off. Like, I was like, he's going to Indy. He's going to change people's minds. That's the team. He's going to ride Jonathan Taylor. and then you're like, oh, you didn't make the playoffs because of Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and they're legitimately making everything easier. Like, Indy was the easiest place for him to be. He was with the coach that had made him do well the last time. He had the best running back in the league, and he was garbage. And he didn't get his vaccine.
Yeah.
He's not a good leader. He's like, why? And Ron Rivera doesn't take any shit kind of guy, right? Is Carson Wentz going to respond well to that? No, absolutely not.
I can think of is they wanted him because he's as tough as 3-inch steel. And that's true. Carson Wentz is tough as hell. Sprained both ankles on one play. The dude will play hurt and whatever. That's the only thing I can think of is they're like, well, let's just take him because there's this slight chance he's the old Carson and we know he's tough as nails. I don't know what else to think.
But he's tough as nails, but injury prone.
Right. But
so like, yeah, I'm tough as nails. I'll put myself in danger's way, but I'm going to get injured every time I do it. I'd rather have somebody who was like, oh, I'm injury prone. Okay, I'm going to throw this ball away. And by throwing the ball away, I don't mean throwing it away to their team. I mean throwing it to the sideline.
You mean the guy who sprained both ankles getting rid of the ball?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just don't be an idiot. Like, and Carson Wentz, I don't understand that.
I think Taylor Heineke loses you less games than Carson Wentz. Carson may win you more, but Taylor will lose you less. So unless they think they're going to unlock the Philadelphia Eagle Carson Wentz, and if they do, then they're doing great. So good for you, but I'm still not convinced. Carson convinced me I was wrong last year. So I'm not quite sure what. I didn't like their draft either, though. So I'm not sure what. I don't feel good about the Commanders this year, and I think their name is fucking awful.
Fair.
All right. So you want to go with your Giants or you want to go with your Eagles? And I mean your division.
Yeah, for die Eagles die. Let's go Giants. Let's go Big Blue.
All right.
I'm just going to start.
Put this out there, fat as hell right now, straight off the bat, draft only. A.
Yeah, if you're taking the first two picks.
They got a lot better in this draft, and that's what I'm grading it on. And they made better choices than they have in the past. And if we're talking offseason moves, I think it was brilliant not to pick up Danny Dimes' fifth-year option.
Right. So let's start with that because I have a totally different opinion on that altogether. Because what are you doing otherwise? Is Danny Dimes the reason that you're losing? No.
Maybe.
No, he's just not. Danny Dimes is the top 5 in the top 5 of the best football players on their team. I'm convinced. I am convinced that Danny Dimes is in the top 5 of best football players on their team because they're so bad. Like their roster, the only reason that they're getting any wins whatsoever is because, like, their coach kind of Danny Dimes runs like his athletic ability is really underrated, and I just think, how are you setting up the season for this guy saying we're not picking up your 5th-year option after saying, yeah, he's our guy the entire time? Now I understand the financial implications, and if he plays well this year, you're going to end up playing him more than you would have done for his 5th-year option anyway. So it's a bit strange. But
you don't want to be stuck in that Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, like that. I think they would rather, if Danny comes out and balls out, they'd rather franchise him and pay him the $30+ million off the franchise next year than the 22 he would have got or something. So you're giving him 12 extra million.
Yeah.
But you're banking on the fact that I really feel like they just bet that Danny Dimes is not their guy. That's what I feel like, the bet they laid down in Vegas. They were in Vegas. They laid a bet and said, Danny's not our guy.
In which case means just blow the whole thing up. This year, just blow it up.
Saquon can't stay healthy. Jonathan Taylor is what everybody thought Saquon Barkley was going to be. Never panned out. Now you got Tony who wants out of there, and I don't know how a second-year guy who hasn't proved shit thinks he can talk his way out of town. That is so fucking strange to me. But I like what they did. I think they got a lot better, and I really, really like their first 5 picks.
Yeah. I really like their first 2 picks, and then the rest of it, I'm like, okay, like, cool. Yeah, they might be really good, and they might also be terrible, and we'll see what happens. Their first 2 picks, top class. Neal and Thibodeau, again, the Giants, you've done well not to fuck it up. Like, well done. Like, just to sit there and just take the best players on the board. Now, Thibodeau, we are totally on that train of who gives a fuck if the guy's a businessman outside of the game. Why does it matter? Now, it may matter a little bit if he's in New York. That's the only place where I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see if the guy really does love football or not. New York and LA are the two places that you don't want a guy to go if you have questions about whether he loves football. And Neil was my top offensive lineman on the board. An offensive line is where they're weak. And that's what they've done to help Danny Dimes, is to get an offensive lineman. That's the only thing that they've done to help Danny Dimes. And just to come back to that point really quickly, they should have just got rid of everybody this year if they've decided that Danny Dimes isn't their guy. They should have got rid of Saquon Barkley. They should have got rid of Kenny Golladay. They should have got rid of, just get Tony, see what picks you can get for him. Just get rid of everybody.
Nobody's taking that Golladay contract. With Saquon's injury, what do you do? I thought Wan'Dale Robinson was a great pickup for them because, to me, he is a faster, little bit smaller Tony. Like, so if that dude wants out of here, go. Fucking go. Like, I know they don't have a trade partner for him right now, but it's like you're a second-year dude. Like, who the hell are you to be requesting a trade?
I'm sure the Cowboys would take him off his hands. We love players like that. We're like, yep, cool. You're a bit of a dick. Get on down to Dallas. Let's see what we can do. Yeah. Sounds good. And he would be a genuine weapon for our offense. I would take him. Talk me through their first five picks that you really like, because I kind of look at them and I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. Obviously, Thibodeau and Neal are class.
And I like Robinson. I just said that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they're getting more depth at guard, because that's where they were getting blown up in the center. And at the point, I think that was still the best guard on the table. And I think Cordell Falat, corner, is one of those guys that you took him late in the third, and maybe he doesn't pan out. But if he does, and he gets, because he's so raw still, he's as raw as sushi. You know what I mean? Like, he's still raw. But if you can get him, I think this kid could literally be a shutdown corner in the NFL. And if you can coach him up to that, I thought it was a great pick, because they need help everywhere. And you got two bangers right off the bat, but you're pretty set 10 years probably, right? I think Robinson's going to be a solid receiver, even if he's your number 2 for years to come. And then I think you got better at the offensive line. And I think you got a project who could literally be your lockdown corner. So that's where I was very impressed with their first 5 picks. But again, let's be fair. It's easy to have a decent 5 picks when they're all in the first 3 rounds.
Exactly. It's exactly. I think that's why I'm
going to get them. They still had the picks.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like they could have just done something more with the picks. I think it all leads back to, what are they actually trying to do with this year?
I think they're trying to build a team and then find a quarterback.
Yeah, in which case, then they should have just blown everything up to get whatever draft picks they can.
You give Danny that 4th year. Prove it. You get one more year to prove it. Otherwise, we're moving on.
Yep, I don't think I actually really like Danny Dimes as a quarterback. I've watched him quite a lot, and I quite like him as a quarterback. I
wouldn't even want him as my backup.
I think if he goes to another team, he'll prove some people wrong. But then again, I said that about Sam Darnold, so
well,
I'm not the one to be trusted.
Quarterback, hard to judge anyway, right? Like,
it's hard to judge when somebody comes from either of the New York teams as to whether they're going to be any good or not.
Something that's going to make you sick to your stomach. Fly, Eagles, fly. Best draft of the fucking NFC East, and they only picked 5 guys, but in the process, they brought in A.J. motherfucking Brown to play on the outside, to give Jalen Hurts some real weapons in that offense, to give that team a threat that you have to double team. I mean, bro, and Jordan Davis is a monster coming out of Georgia. Juergens is a good center. He's going to shore up that offensive line some. They needed linebackers. They went out and got 2 of them. And then you get a tight end that you like so much that you cut some of your other guys. I almost screwed up teams and what tight ends that got cut, but you cut some of your other guys for him. I think they had the best draft, but a lot of it has to do with Davis, Juergens, and A.J. Brown, because A.J. Brown is counted as a draft pick, being that they traded for him. So I think you guys, I think it's the Eagles, Cowboys this year. And before we get to this, I should have asked you earlier, just a random question as a Cowboys fan. How you feel, and you know I'm a fan of this guy, but how do you feel with Zeke being the highest paid running back this year in the NFL?
Not good about it, but it made.
I get
looking
it.
back on it, I never, to be honest, I never slate Jerry Jones for that decision because it was the right decision at the time. Like, I think people forget that it was 100% the right decision at the time. It's like they're gonna pay all the top running backs big money because running back's a position that's coming back into vogue after going out of vogue, but as a wide receiver position, and Zeke can do all of that. And if Zeke gets in and he looks in cracking shape, and he only wasn't one of the top guys this year because he got injured as well.
I will not say it again because I don't want to jinx your boy, but you already know what I feel about Zeke, and it's positive. So, but I don't want to jinx your boy because I said it the last 2 years in the row, and I feel like I almost knocked him off the track of where he should be going. I am a fan of Big Ten running backs. I am not a fan of Ohio State quarterbacks, but I am a fan of Ohio State running backs.
Yeah, and if Zeke gets anywhere close, and then Tony Pollard, that's the thing. Zeke doesn't need to be a workhorse anymore because Tony Pollard can do those. Can obviously show a lot as well, and they're two best tandem in the league when they're actually up to scratch. Apart from maybe Matheson and Cook, actually, which who I really like as a tandem as well, who should be used more in a tandem. But let's move on to the Eagles.
For 2 years minimum, unless you want to eat a ton.
There's no harm in it. I'm not sure what else, like, because that was something that I wanted to mention in the Cowboys offseason as well. I'm not being as harsh on them with Amari Cooper as other people are being, because he does seem like a bit of a toxic teammate. Like his level of play, we're missing out on that a lot. And for a 5th round pick, that's nothing compared to where he should be.
You'll find out this year. Was it him or Dak that was the problem? I'm leaning towards Amari, but we will find out this year.
Yeah, in terms of personality, I feel like it's Amari that's the problem.
I agree.
In terms of like the locker room stuff. And you just get rid of those guys, really, when you've got a team like ours, when you've got a team where there's a lot of people with off-the-field issues, you don't want somebody bringing that shit into the changing room, trust me. So I feel like I feel like it's actually not a good thing, because it would have been good if they could work it out. But, you know, the best wide receiver in the NFL, the best wide receiver in the NFC East is now an Eagle. So that's good. That's an enjoyable thing to hear. The Philadelphia Eagles have had the best offseason in the entire NFL. Brilliant.
Might could be. Yeah, it really might could be. Like,
They got to the playoffs. They got to the playoffs when everybody thought they were garbage, and now everybody seems to think that they're really good.
The only people who hate the Eagles more than me is NFC East fans too. So I am not an Eagles fan, you guys. I fucking hate them for knocking us out of going to a home Super Bowl. Hate them because I'm petty. So this is me praising a team I don't like, just like Maddie.
Yeah. AJ Brown is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league because he's been in small market. Tennessee, great football team, but and Nashville's an incredible city, but in terms of NFL TV time and things like that, AJ Brown hasn't got loads of it.
And that's
and they brought back Fletcher Cox cheaper. So they released him and then signed him back for a lot cheaper. And Fletcher Cox isn't going to make a huge difference. The only person he's going to make a huge difference to is the freak that they've got a defensive lineman now, Jordan Davis, who is basically a bigger, faster, younger Fletcher Cox. And we've been dealing with Fletcher Cox for however many years now. And we get to deal with him again now for the next 10, 15 years in the NFL. And then to add on top of that, they've got Nakobe Dean, who's an awesome leader. And the question about Nakobe Dean was, how much of his play was it Wyatt and Davis in front of him making it easy? Well, now he's got Wyatt and Fletcher Cox in front of him, so I'm sure he's got Davis and Fletcher Cox in front of him, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
2 things on your point, though. Okay, so 1, bringing back Cox was brilliant because now he can teach Davis how to be a professional, right? Yeah. Nakobe Dean and Lewis Cine for the Vikings are 2 guys that were on one of the greatest defenses we've seen in college football recently. But because of the scheme they're playing, both of those guys, I think, will be better in the NFL because they will be playing their athletic ability and their intelligence will be used differently because that offensive line ate everything up, or that defensive line ate everything up at Georgia. I think you're going to see Dean and Lewis Cine be actually better in the pros than they were in college.
Yeah, and by the sounds of it, you have the guy who was the leader of that. You have the guy who was the leader of that Georgia team, one of the best defenses of all time in college history. And what really fucks me off is that they're going to play Sam Williams at linebacker, and they could have had Nakobe Dean and Micah Parsons lining up next to each other instead. That annoys me. But anyway, that's fine.
What did you give them?
But yeah, an A.
I knew you did. I needed you to spit it out. I had to make you spit it out.
Sorry, even we don't do A pluses, we do A stars. So A star is what they've got.
Okay, I gave them an A, and I know when they go to grading and these kind of things, they do A pluses. I've never been to a school that you can get an A plus. A was the highest, but you could get B pluses, C pluses.
Yeah, we do A star.
It's just weird. Even in the US, though, it differs.
Yeah, it's if you get 90%. If you get 90% on an exam, you get an A star, and I feel like they're in the top 10% of the top 10% of people in the NFL.
Yeah, they've had the best job. I hate it. They did a great job. And as much as I shit on Sirianni last year because he gives awful interviews, like we got the dog mentality and we're going to go in there and we're just going to do the things like Kobayashi eating fucking like weird press conferences, but the dude can coach.
And how did they get to the playoffs last year? How did they get to the playoffs? They were the team I was the most wrong about in terms of wins in the regular season. Oh, sorry, Cincinnati. But everybody was wrong about Cincinnati, so that's not fair. But the Eagles were the team I was the most wrong about outside of Cincinnati in terms of wins in the regular season. And now they've got A.J. Brown, an already proven commodity. Jordan Davis, who's the kind of freak that we've never seen before in the NFL. And they've added a leader in linebacker. And it's the first time they've drafted a linebacker in forever. And they've picked up possibly... Now, I don't think he's the best linebacker in their draft. I like Davis the most. But, yeah.
No, it's fair. But they picked up two solid linebackers, if you want to argue, because K'Ron Johnson at Kansas, all he did was run around and make tackles like a fucking machine.
Yeah, definitely. Now we know he can play because at Kansas they didn't have the best defense of all time. So we know that he can play.
Yeah, I think they just got better. And like you were saying with Davis, like that's a great pick. And like we were just talking about bringing back a veteran to mentor him too, that Cox was great in his prime and knows exactly where to line up, where to set up, how to be a leader, how to be a professional in the locker room, how to study. And he's just going to learn from this guy. I think it was the best place for Davis to land too, almost. Maybe not the best, but a great place for Davis to land because of that room he's going to be in with other players.
Yeah, either there or the Raiders. That's always the best place for people like interior defensive linemen to land. I'd feel a lot more comfortable playing Jordan Davis if I had Tyler Linderbaum under center or a guard.
Maddie, it's going to take you 2 years or Linderbaum being garbage to get over this.
I think the thing with Linderbaum, is he could come in and be the best center in the NFL for 50 years. Like he 100% could. And it's like, I don't think Smith, I keep on forgetting his name. I don't think Smith is ever going to be the best guard in the NFL.
Tyler Smith.
Tyler Smith. Yeah.
Well, all right, guys, we got through the NFC East. We got through the NFC North. I'm guessing we'll come back with the AFC East and the AFC North so we don't confuse ourselves going through these videos. But we started with our divisions because it's our show. And
sounds good.
Yankee and the Brit originally started as NFC North, and we always promised we'd keep you updated on North. And Maddie, even though you're a Cowboys fan, and that's part of the reason we did it, I mean, it's a huge fan base, not a bad team to start with their division either to get some views.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about the NFC East being called the NFC least. They do have all the biggest, like some of the biggest fan bases are all in one division, which is very impressive. Apart from nobody really likes the Commanders at the moment. Even Commanders fans hate the Commanders, so that's good.
Yeah, but it's just rough when your team has the white Sam Darnold or the black Sam Darnold.
Black Sam.
No, you heard the Amari Cooper. You're the white Kirk.
No,
black
it wasn't. Was it Black Sam Darnold? I didn't.
No, he said Black Kirk Cousins, but I was taking a shot at you while doing it too. I was taking a double shot.
Got you. Thank you. Yeah. Cheers. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. We'll be back with more. We got this whole off season. We're going to hit you with different things. We'll give you grades on there, and then before the season comes, we'll give you some who we think's going to win the divisions. And I know I got a couple that'll shock people. I'm sure Maddie will too. So stay tuned.
Always.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.